Hi, we had a request to do a video on DMT. So today we are doing a DMT talk for y'all. Now, DMT is known as the spirit molecule. What would you like to have to say about DMT, sis?
I guess the biggest thing is that it's such a short experience. It's a very fast hit. It basically takes you the same place ayahuasca would take you, but you don't have the opportunity to learn the lessons because of the fact that you're there and then you're back. It's very short.
Right. It's like a bungee jump. It's like, boom, you're there. Boom, you're somewhere else, and then boom, you're back. So,
Right.
Very quick experience. Whereas you had mentioned the longer experience, and that can take, what, like up to 3 to 4 hours?
4 to 6 hours
4
for
to
ayahuasca.
6 hours.
Typically, yeah.
And with that, it brings up the issues into awareness where they can be healed with the insights that comes from the DMT experience, from that consciousness. So that's a good thing to know. And that's actually drinking it. The ayahuasca, you drink it rather than smoke it. So, and I guess that's the reason why it lasts longer. It isn't the bungee jump effect, the boom, boom, boom. It's, like you said, 4 to 6 hours. And it gives you time to process what's going on. And whereas with smoking it, you can't even comprehend it because there's too much information given at one time, so your mind can't process what is even happening.
Correct. It's information overload.
Exactly. Okay. Now, DMT is naturally made in the body, in the human body, and it's also found in plants and a lot of mammals. So, it's made in the pineal gland.
Correct.
Okay, of human beings. So, it's what do you know about that?
Well, I know that these days most people's pineal glands are calcified due to fluoride in the water and chemicals in our foods and that sort of thing. If you want to assist your body to create its own natural DMT, then you have to take care of the pineal gland. Some people use distilled water, a gallon a day, to decalcify their pineal gland.
Right, and we can go into all that in our next video about how to actually take care of your pineal gland.
That's a good idea, yeah.
So
we can do a separate video on
it's working properly for your health and
right.
actually doing something good for you.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think anybody really knows what the function or the purpose of DMT really is, except that it brings you into a different consciousness. It takes you to like a spiritual consciousness.
Correct, it does. If you've already experienced the longer version, then DMT would be a familiar arena. But if you have not experienced the longer version, then a very fast, short trip to a place you've never been, a dimension you've never been, with those kind of things going on could really freak you out. If you're not already
imagine, yeah. I've heard that DMT may be the common molecular
Easy for you to say.
Molecular language among all living things. Is it that you think that gives us the ability to communicate with plants and animals, perhaps?
You see, that's a point that you brought up that I absolutely love. Yes, I do think that's how the shamans communicate with the plants and animals and how we can. I think that's a great common ground suspect for communication. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. It would make sense.
Yeah, it would. I also like what you brought up about DMT and the death experience, because we were created to have a blissful, good, euphoric death experience when we did die, thanks to a surge of DMT at the moment. And one thing I was very grateful to hear is that in the animal kingdom, animals that are eaten by lions or what have you, when they are caught and they are now prey and being eaten, their bodies also secrete euphoric kind of chemicals. And so what appears to us to be drastic suffering, not saying that there's no suffering involved, but they are created to also have a rush of feel-good hormones and chemicals running through their brain so that the experience is not that traumatic. And I was very grateful to hear that, because I have a tender heart for the animal kingdom, so that was good news to me.
Now, I've mentioned that this is called the spirit molecule, but I've also heard people asking, shouldn't this be called the reality molecule? Because of the experiences gained and the insights that are seen and experienced is more like a reality. So,
well, it would be if you were doing ayahuasca, but if you're smoking DMT, your experience there is going to be so short that you're not going to have time to process that kind of information.
Right. Yeah. I think with drinking it, the ayahuasca, I know that it's a big thing in other cultures with the shamans and the religious sects and, all that. But of course, here in our culture, it's a forbidden thing. So
Correct. It's
you got to
illegal
wonder
here.
why. I don't know. It just seems to me like the things that are really useful to a culture and us as human beings are kept from us in our area, whereas in other areas it's common everyday knowledge and practice.
That's correct. It has been that way, but we have embarked on the age of Aquarius, and so those things will not be possible for much longer, because of the effect of the age of Aquarius on the planet and on the beings that populate the earth. So yes, that was the whole idea. Don't let people think for themselves, because then they're not going to obey authority.
Right. Well, how does a culture who considers itself enlightened, democratic, and scientific make a plant illegal? That's kind of
Because
doesn't
it's a
even
lie.
make sense to me. It's like,
Yeah, well, because it's a lie. We are not democratic, we are not enlightened, and we are not free like we think we are.
well, that's true.
We
Okay.
are no longer home of the free. We may have been in the beginning, but we have not been the home of the free for a very long time. We are censored in this country greatly. We just aren't aware of it unless you're a person that's able to travel around the world.
That's true. Now, I've also heard that it's been called the reality pill, even though it's not a pill. It's a good characterization of it because of the reality and the consciousness that is brought to you through the experience. So I think that's a good point.
You get dropped into the real matrix, and become aware of consciousness. And again, if you're familiar with all that realm, that's a really cool thing, I guess, even though it's for a very short time. But without the longer version, I don't know how much good it does. I don't know how much enlightenment it can actually bring, due to the fact that you're just there for, what is it, 10 to 15 minutes? That's
Yeah.
not time enough to process anything.
Right. So, like we just said, drinking the ayahuasca is a much better experience for getting in touch with reality and, the spiritual things of life and stuff, rather than smoking it, than smoking
Right.
the DMT. So,
Right. And the people that I've heard who have done ayahuasca and done DMT, pretty much across the board, their expression is that they're not interested in DMT because it's too short. They'd rather have the longer version, to where they can really face themselves and they can have a life-changing experience and process all that information and become enlightened. And it is a spiritual experience. It is an experience of becoming enlightened. But I'm not so sure that you can have that same result with the short version of DMT.
people who were interviewed right after smoking DMT described the experience as having been able to know what God was like. Some described it as they felt like it was time traveling. A lot of them described the crazy geometric patterns that they saw. So even in that short experience, I feel there was benefit.
Yeah, and it's possible. I suppose it is possible that they could have.
But I think if you want to do real deep spiritual work and reality work within yourself, I would definitely say smoking is not the way to go.
Right. And some of the benefits of the ayahuasca versus the DMT is ayahuasca has been proven to help with post-traumatic stress disorder, sexual abuse, depression, those kind of disorder, OCD, behavioral disorders that you just can't break the pattern, all of those kind of things. They've had great results using it for that.
Right.
It does elevate blood pressure. And so I don't know if ayahuasca is safe to use.
Well, does it always
forever.
elevate blood pressure, or is that like it can elevate blood pressure?
The report I read said it does raise it 20%. If you have normal blood pressure, I suppose that's not an issue. But if you already have very high blood pressure, I don't know what, if that's a
And for how long?
safe thing
How
or not.
long does it raise it?
Only for a few hours.
Yeah.
Only for a few hours. 3 to 4 hours is what I read in the reports, and then your blood pressure goes back to its normal state. Of course, 3 to 4 hours, that's a while.
Yeah.
I don't know what DMT does to blood pressure. I don't know. With DMT, you get a spike. I haven't got a clue. I haven't read any reports on that, but I have read the reports on ayahuasca.
Well, I'm a little leery of reports, because
Right. They're going to make them say what they want you to believe.
exactly, they're going to use the fear factors to try to control the masses, of course. So I don't know, because I would, if it always raised the blood pressure 20%, I think that the people who do this daily as part of their culture, weekly, monthly, whatever, that might present a problem for them, and it doesn't seem to present any type of problem for them. So I'm thinking maybe the report is just a fear factor. I don't know.
It could be. Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I actually have not sit with somebody who's drank ayahuasca and monitored their blood pressure.
Right.
So I personally don't know.
It might be a fun thing to do, though.
It would. That would be an experiment I would enjoy.
Question, yeah, put that on our experiment list.
I'll gladly be the candidate for drinking the ayahuasca.
We'll take turns.
There you go. All right.
Sit there with their little blood pressure machine.
Right. Psychedelic drugs, if used in the correct way, can be extremely healing. They knew that long ago. They were actually having some great success with it in the 60s and then banned it.
Of course.
Because they were having success with it, yeah.
Yes, of
That's
course.
the way it goes.
Goes without saying, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were having, with mental illness, they were having wonderful success with psychedelic. Timothy Leary, I believe, is the name of the psychologist who was using psychedelic drugs, and he was really having some great success in some of his work. So,
yeah.
But we are now in the age of Aquarius, and things won't go like that any longer.
Right. I personally have never smoked DMT. I personally have never drank the ayahuasca, but I've heard that the DMT experience unlocks doors to other dimensions and that it really assists in like astral traveling and astral projecting and such like that.
I've heard that. I have not drank ayahuasca yet, and I have not done DMT, nor do I desire to, because I don't want a quick jump in, jump out kind of thing. I really want time to process. But I have done psychedelic drugs long ago, decades ago. And at the moment, I didn't realize the gift I had been given. But decades later here, as I said, I was given a tremendous gift with that experience. But it took me decades to process everything I had been exposed to in that experience. It makes you face yourself, your own inner emotions, your own inner demons, your own inner
It's an experience
self.
of turning inward to the
Yes.
self and really getting a good look at what's going on, where you're at, and the benefit also is I've heard that along with the experience of drinking the ayahuasca that it also brings you answers in that experience as to how to fix any issues you're having and problems you're having and things you're dealing with. So that's excellent.
Yes, it is. And it is not a one-time thing. For example, you can have an experience on ayahuasca, or in my case, a different type of psychedelic drug, and then years later, months later, whatever, things will begin to occur to you. I guess it's because you've had time to process what you've been through. And you can continue to learn lessons about yourself and learn lessons about life ongoing. There are some people who do ayahuasca or psychedelic drugs one time. There are people who very rarely ever do it. There are people who do it on a regular basis. I suppose a lot of it has to do with how much inner work do you really need to do.
Yeah, and I think most people have a lot of inner work that needs done. I think the majority probably does. But
Yes.
this experience is a reminder that there's a lot more about reality and the universe and ourselves. There's so much more to everything than we think about daily or even imagine.
Correct. Absolutely. And that's one of the things I've heard about DMT as well as ayahuasca or any other psychedelic drug is that it forces you into the now. It forces you into the present moment, which for people in our culture, I'm sure is a big shock in itself, because a lot of the people in our country live in the past or in the future, not in the present.
Exactly. I mean, we're not
reality.
advocating doing psychedelics or anything like that. We're just giving information on DMT, whether it's whether you're smoking it, drinking it, whatever, or the fact that it is made naturally within your own body. So
Correct.
I just don't want people to think we're here like,
Promoting drugs.
DMT
No.
or promoting drugs or anything like that. Exactly.
Well, and another element of drinking ayahuasca that I think is really key to mention is that typically it's done with a preparation of diet 10 days before. You adhere to a very strict diet before you do ayahuasca. and then you are led through it with a shaman, and you also you include a lot of ritual procedures that are part of your experience. It is not just, oh, I'm going to drink this. No, you prepare
it's a
for 10.
spiritual experience.
Absolutely. And you prepare for 10 days. You do lots of ritual. You have a shaman who's leading you and who's blessing you and who's helping you.
Right, and who knows what he's doing, and who has also himself experienced it. So it's not
Exactly.
like you're just out there on your own doing something silly.
That's correct. No, it is a sacred experience that
Right.
is well thought through
Mm-hmm.
and
And it's
done
part
in a
of
very
other
specific
cultures.
manner.
I mean, a deep ingrained part. Just because
Right.
our culture doesn't have that or have knowledge of it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means it's not our culture. Whereas in other cultures, they probably look at us and think we're ridiculous. But
Of course, because the planet has provided us exactly what we need to heal from everything, and our country has made it illegal for our people to use it. Yeah,
exactly.
that's
And
pretty
that's what I
sad.
was trying to say about the government, saying they're democratic, they're scientific, this and that, and they're not.
No, no. And again, we don't realize how much freedom we don't have unless we're one of the people who are blessed enough to have the finances and the opportunity to travel throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, oh my goodness.
Well, I know there's a
Crazy how
lot
this
of
goes.
interest right now in DMT. I mean,
Yes.
it's everywhere. The
Yeah.
interest is widespread, and it's
Sure.
becoming a really good topic that people should be looking into, and they are. So that is good to know. It's good to know that finally, people are looking into something that's worth looking into.
Well, and I think part of it is because the people on the planet are beginning to have such a desire for true reality, for truth, for
Mm-hmm. The search for truth.
spiritual
Yep.
experiences.
Mm-hmm.
We are craving it. And thank
Yes.
God we're in the age of Aquarius because now it's coming.
Yeah. I think it's a deep-seated need that people have that, a lot of people walk around feeling empty and they don't know why they're feeling empty. They don't realize that it's that need that's driving that emptiness so that they will go and search for the truth and search for answers and search for spirituality. So they just walk around feeling empty.
Correct. Which brings up an interesting point. One of the things that I found fascinating about the reports of ayahuasca is supposedly it reduces or removes the need to self-medicate anymore because now you have faced your inner self and you are at peace.
Right.
And so you lose the need to self-medicate. And that was one of the things that I did experience when I did a psychedelic drug is that I was just done. I never did speed or coke or anything because I had already had my psychedelic experience and I had no desire to do anything else. I had no desire to smoke pot anymore. Nothing. I drank occasionally, but I just had no interest in drugs whatsoever after that experience.
Yeah.
Maybe because other things just seem like a cheap fix after you've had an experience where you actually face yourself. I don't know.
That could very well be. That could be. Well, I think that the more people that learn and are educated, not just about DMT or ayahuasca or any of that, but about spiritual matters and turning inward and discovering who they are and discovering there is more to life than our culture tells us, doing the 9 to 5, the little family thing, there's so much more to life than what our culture wants us to believe.
Right. I've heard that if you're going to limit yourself to DMT. The best way to do it is to use it infrequently and try to process the information from each experience before you go on to having another one. Again, I haven't done DMT, so I'm not speaking from experience, but...
Right. Well, doesn't the DMT that our bodies produce naturally, other than, I know at the end of life, the death experience, and this goes on with the spirit molecule, the body releases a large amount of the DMT that's in our body. And that helps us with the death experience, transitioning over and having it be a good experience for us. But doesn't the DMT in our bodies also help us with dreaming?
Absolutely, with lucid dreaming. And it also helps us in crisis times.
Right.
When we're in a crisis and we're looking for answers and we're looking within, it also helps with those things. And, through meditation, through dreaming, just whatever. Yes, absolutely. It's there for a reason. Our bodies were created to create DMT for a reason, because we need it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and large amounts are released, like you just said, in very stressful situations when you're, undergoing a lot of stress and, maybe painful situations or whatever. It's released to be a help at those times.
If you're blessed to have a healthy pineal gland.
Exactly, right, because if your pineal gland isn't healthy, it's not creating it the way it should, and it won't be released. So
that's correct.
And that's why we're going to do a video then on the pineal gland and the health. Yes. And all that, but that'll be later on.
Right.
So y'all come back and watch that one then.
Absolutely.
Now, I personally don't know anybody who has done DMT or the ayahuasca, but I'm sure with all the publicity it's getting right now and the interest in it and, all the research being done and everything else, who knows, maybe not too far off in the future, maybe it'll become part of our culture.
Right.
I don't know.
I know that there's a lot of YouTube videos where people are sharing their experience with ayahuasca, and so it's becoming more and more available information.
Right. And that's a good thing. Information is good. Knowledge is good.
Yes.
All right. Well, I hope we covered all the important things we wanted to mention about DMT. And for those of you who requested this video, happy watching.
And if they have any comments or questions, not that we might know the answer, but we could look to see if we could find the answer, or share their experience. If somebody has done ayahuasca or DMT.
Share your experiences.
Right.
If you have any questions, let us know. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you feel about this topic.
Right.
All comments are welcome. All right. So have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.